What is up, On Purpose Nation, and welcome back to the On Purpose Investor Podcast, show number 69. Welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast. My name is Eric Vogel. I'm a real estate investor, mastermind coach, husband to an amazing woman, and often my co-host, Tiffany, and father to two incredible boys. I'm on a mission to help you become a real estate investor and not only achieve seven-figure success like my wife and I did, but to do so with intention, direction, and clarity. If you want to transform your financial and personal goals, become the version of yourself you've always wanted, and reach your dream life ASAP, then you're in the right place. Thank you for deciding to hit that play button today. Now let's begin. Scott Reib is known as America's legal coach. He's the official Zig Ziglar small business lawyer, a Ziglar Legacy certified trainer, and he has over 20 years of experience as an attorney. For the last 2 decades, Scott has been helping business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and service providers to shatterproof their businesses and succeed in the professional world. Scott is a firm believer that seeking legal advice doesn't have to be intimidating or expensive if we treat lawyers like primary care doctors instead of ER doctors. Through his subscription-based Access Plan legal service, Scott is making great strides in shifting that perspective. Without any further ado, let's bring onto the show Scott Reib. Good morning, Scott, and welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast. We're excited to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Here at the On Purpose Investor Podcast, we are on a mission to help breed hyper-intentionality in what people do in their investing journeys, whether they're investing in the stock market, real estate, no matter what they're doing. Our goal is that they're doing it with intention and clarity. And what better way to make sure you're being intentional about your business than making sure you are legally taken care of. So I'm very excited to talk about the ways that you help coaches and business owners and mentors structure their businesses so that they are protected and they can shatterproof their business.
Sounds awesome. Let's do it.
All right. So first question for you, why business owners need to stop treating lawyers like emergency rooms. And, obviously emergency rooms, we go in there when there's a problem. How are we going to stop treating lawyers like ER doctors?
Yeah. And if you have a problem, you should still use your lawyer, right? If you have a medical emergency, you should still go to the hospital. But the problem is a lot of those emergencies could be avoided or minimized if you are having a regular relationship with your lawyer. It's a lot like in the fitness world. If I want to stay physically fit, I have to spend a lot of time at a gym. And if I really want to do it well, I need to have a fitness trainer and someone that's checking in with me. They're taking my weight, they're taking measurements to make sure I'm on track and on progress. And in the legal world, we do that with what we call check-in calls for our Access Legal coaching members, where we're just always keeping our pulse on the finger on their business so we know what's happening. We don't have to play catch up when there are problems or opportunities. But by having that relationship, you can build a business that will bend and not break, and we call that shatterproof.
All right. I'm in real estate space. My wife and I have a portfolio, and we have a really great real estate attorney that has helped us structure legal entities, the business entities, and, trying to prevent, any type of unveiling, if you will, making sure the businesses stay within their lanes and that our personal life is completely separate from our business life. Is there any quick fixes on folks out there that, are in the real estate investing space on making sure that they are completely separate and that they're not piercing that corporate veil of this is my real estate business and this is me personally? Are there any quick, make sure you're not doing this, make sure you're doing this?
Well, the first thing is make sure you're not doing business in your personal name. So Eric mentioned a legal entity. So you need to have at least one legal entity that you're operating out of for your business. And if you're an investor, for sure. But you also need multiple entities. There's one part of having a good asset protection plan for you personally would be that you want to make sure that it's anonymous if possible, so that everyone can't find what you own really easily. Your name's not on everything. And so one way to do that is to set up your top level company that I call a family holding company, and in a state that gives you that anonymity. And one of my favorites right now is Wyoming. They keep everything anonymous. They're very efficient to file. They're inexpensive, and they offer some really good asset protection laws that will protect your assets from you personally. Because one of the things that a lot of people don't plan for is I build this business, I build up real estate assets, for instance, and then I go out and create a liability personally. In my vehicle, I run over a brain surgeon in the prime of life and create this $10 million liability event. And I get sued. I lose because I was wrong. And then they have a judgment against me personally. Now they're going to go find my personal assets. And if they find you have an LLC that owns all of your assets and you're not set up in the right state, they can go through that LLC and take those assets out of it. But if you're in a state like Wyoming that has strong, it's called charging order laws, then all they get is this piece of paper that says they're entitled to the profits from that top level LLC, but they're not entitled to vote, to do anything with the assets of the LLC. They just have to sit there and wait. And probably everyone listening can think of many ways to get money out of an LLC without it being profit. And so you're in a really much stronger position if you've used a state like Wyoming, Delaware, Nevada, or several that give you that protection. The next thing you want to do is have what I call silos. And so you don't want to mix up your stuff. If you're driving through middle America, you'll see silos on all the farms, and they're holding the grain. Well, they don't mix their grain. There's multiple silos because if you mix the grain, it ruins it. So you have to keep your business activities separate. So my law firm, I have a coaching company. They're separate. If you're in real estate, you'd want to have a company that's your management company that's operating your real estate empire, but you'd also want to have entities that hold each individual real estate asset so that they're each in their separate silos. And if you'll do those things, you go a really long way to being shatterproof and having a good asset protection plan. And then the other thing you want to do is you want to actually treat it like it's a separate business. It's not a pretend thing, it's a real thing. And so you spend your personal money out of your personal accounts and your business money out of your business accounts as much as you possibly can. One of the big tricks and reason you want to be in business for yourself is so you can try to convert as many of your expenses that you're already doing in life into business expenses. So those can become write-offs. But you got to be careful that you're keeping those two lives separate. And if you do those three things, you really do have a much better chance of preventing anybody from piercing that corporate veil and actually taking what you work so hard for.
Scott, that was like a $10,000 piece of advice that a lot of people are on Google searching for those answers, on these Facebook groups searching for these answers. And I really appreciate you sharing that wise wisdom.
You're welcome.
That is something, I wish I knew 5 years ago when we got started. And
it's much easier to do it the first. It's much easier to do it fun.
We do have that corporate structure of we have a parent company and we have different companies, and we actually went even a further step of putting things in trusts and making the beneficiaries different entities that are scattered about. That way they have to go through multiple layers to even get to the parent company that doesn't even really associate with us. That piece of advice, I wish I'd found it when I first got started.
Yeah, what we just talked about is kind of beginner level of asset protection. You can get as fancy as you want to, and sometimes you need to, but I like to teach people it's really important to crawl, walk, and run. And so, start out with the basics, learn how it works. Don't just do what everyone tells you to do. Get some understanding of why you're doing it, get used to doing it, and let it get more complicated as your businesses grow.
Right. All right. Question number 2, Scott. You have 7 proven strategies to shatterproof your business. Could you elaborate on those 7 proven strategies?
Yeah, one of those we just talked about, and that's to have legal entities, using legal entities as the foundation of your business. You cannot be a sole proprietor anymore. It just doesn't work. Our world's too litigious. There's something like 120 million lawsuits filed every year in the U.S. alone, and a very high percentage of those are civil lawsuits and they're business related. So we can't operate that way. We can't be exposed, because my belief is that our businesses are the best vehicle to achieve our life's goals and dreams. And so we have to take them seriously and protect them by using legal entities. The second thing that you would want to do, or the second strategy, is that you need to have key advisors. And there's a team that you need to have. One of those people is you need to have a coach. You need to have someone that's been where you're trying to get, has a map, and holds you accountable to action steps. It will make your journey much smoother. You'll eliminate some of the big valleys, and you'll get there much faster. So you have to have a coach. The second thing is you need a CPA or accountant. There's some really talented accountants that haven't set for that exam, but that can teach you the basics of finance. They can teach you how to read financial statements. They can teach you how to set up your accounting so you have the right chart of accounts in place for each business that you're running. And because the way you keep score in business is money. So you need to have someone that understands that and can teach you how it works and then help you keep as much of it as possible. Right? We're in a battle with the IRS to keep as much as you may. And so you need that person on your side. The next thing I would think you need is a banker. And people get this confused. I don't mean a bank. Every business has a bank. You need a banker. You need someone that you have their cell phone number. And if you call, they're going to answer. And if you need a favor, like I need to write a check today and I'm going to make a deposit tomorrow, that they'll say, that's fine, we'll cover you. Because sometimes there's an opportunity that if you don't write the check today, you won't get it. And so you need to have those kind of relationships, and those don't happen by accident. Those are on purpose. You have to actually go to the bank. You have to take them coffee, donuts, sit down and talk, let them understand what you're doing, what's your vision, what's your mission, what your core values are, just all that stuff, so that they really have a good understanding of what you're trying to do. And then obviously they can see the money in and out of your bank, but you need that banker. Right. And then you need to have an insurance person that can actually put insurance behind your business so that when something happens, that you have protection there. There's all kinds of insurance. If you get the right broker, they'll sit down with you, ask you a lot of questions, and then say, here's all the things, coverages that would apply to what you're doing. And then you as the entrepreneur can make the decisions of, okay, I can't afford everything. Let's prioritize these and start taking them down as you can. But if you don't have someone presenting that to you, you can't. So you have to have them on your team of key advisors. Last but not least, you need to have a business lawyer. Eric said that they have a lawyer that's focused on real estate for their business. You need to have that kind of lawyer that understands your niche, understands the entrepreneurial journey, is not out to kill all your deals, but to help you make those deals happen in a way that's better for you. And so that takes some time. There aren't a ton of lawyers that think that way, that understand what you guys do. So take some time, interview them. The other thing you want to make sure is you understand how you're going to pay them, and make sure it's something that makes sense to you. At my firm, we work with a subscription plan so that there's a set monthly investment to have on-demand access for questions, contracts, all that stuff, so that you know how much it is. You're not scared to call your lawyer because there's going to be big bills. If you're scared, you won't call them, and then mistakes will get made. Could cost you tens of thousands of dollars had you spent $1,000. So get that lawyer on your team, and that'd be the third strategy. The fourth one is to document everything, and it's much easier now to document things than it was when I started my firm 18 years ago. Now with technology, you can be taking notes live, you can transcribe calls, and then very quickly turn those into actual agreements, right? So don't do handshake deals. If you're going to make an agreement with someone, at least get it down in an email or a text where here's our key deal points. Do you agree? And if they say yes, that's a contract. And you've at least got the key deal points so you can go back and look at it. If you do written proposals, keep them. You don't have to have the paper versions, but keep digital versions of every offer that you make someone so that you can go back and look at those. Document all of your things you do with your employees. If you're having discussions with them about performance, make sure that you're documenting it. Even if you're not having them sign off on it, make sure that you've taken notes and put it in your system. Those are the kinds of things that you have to do. And then corporate documents. So I would hold annual meetings, even for LLCs, and just document what you did for the year and put that in your corporate record book. Because one of the first things the IRS asks for in an audit is to see your corporate books. and they want to see that you're formed correctly, that you're still in good standing, and that you're doing those basic things like having minutes, do those basic those document things. Those are a few of the strategies that we do, Eric.
Okay. You mentioned so many things. It's like we figured it out as we went along. We didn't have a lawyer when we first got started. We actually found our lawyer by closing with the same attorney over and over and over and over. Yeah. And we ended up closing 25, 30 times with her. And over the course of those times, we just got to know each other more. And then finally just asked her, said, would you be interested in just being our lawyer? We can call you and we can access you. What does that look like? And we set up an agreement like 3 years ago. And she is the person we call when there are real estate questions. We do very creative deal structuring sometime where we're taking over mortgages, or we're allowing the person to stay in their home and paying their mortgage and structuring it in a very strange, odd way. And, closing an escrow for years at a clip. And so there's very unique strategies that we go about doing things that we need to make sure we're legally okay. And like Scott was saying, you've got to have that team. You got to have that CPA. When we first got started, we didn't have a CPA. It was just one rental property. And we're like, yeah, we'll just keep books on it and whatnot. And then we added another. And then, when we got to 10, it's like, there's a lot going on here. We need someone to keep this for us. We need someone to make sure it's okay. Because if we do get audited, we need to make sure we have what we need. And we read a book called Who Not How. It's a book about who can do the job for you, not how can you do it yourself. Chances are you don't need to know every aspect about all the dealings you're going to do. And it would take you someone else's lifetime to become a professional in each of those different lanes that your business needs to travel down. Figure out who can do it for you, build that team like Scott is saying, and focus on what you're good at. Focus on what your niche is, on your business. Ours is real estate investing. We're not lawyers. We're not CPAs. We're not handymen. We're not these people. We have a team. And just like any business owner out there, you don't need to be your own lawyer and your own CPA and accountant and banker. You don't need to be all those things. Focus on what you're good at and outsource the rest, because that's where you're going to get the biggest return and the biggest safety net, I believe.
Yeah, early on, we made the mistake of doing all of our own bookkeeping as well. And it ended up being costly because I had used Quicken before in my personal life. And so I knew how to do categories of expenses. And so suddenly my QuickBooks had 200 categories of expenses, and which affected my general ledger. I'm a business guy, and I've got a degree, and I've taken accounting. I at least knew what those were. I didn't know how electronically it was working, and so I really messed up my chart of accounts. And so then I had to pay a CPA to go through and fix all that stuff. And it was much more expensive than if I had just had them come help me set it up.
Yeah. And there are great CPAs out there that will get you on like a subscription base, like Scott's talking about, where you can pay them $100, $200 a month, and they will just keep up with stuff for you. And now, Scott, I don't know how much your program is, but from the wisdom you're speaking from, I promise you're going to save more money spending a subscription to have a lawyer on call than it would be to go to the emergency room and fix something with a lawyer that you need in the moment. My wife is Tiffany. She co-hosts with me on our weekly podcasts, and we are firm believers of making sure our team is solid. And we have just continued to add more people to our team on these subscription-based things of, well, our CPA was once a year, we file once a year. And then it got more complex and it got more cumbersome, and then we started flipping, and then we started getting into short-term rentals, and then like our real estate just branched out. And it's like, okay, we've got questions coming up throughout the week all the time. Can we buy it? Do we need to buy it in this LLC? And that's our real estate lawyer. Do we need to set up different bank accounts? That's our CPA. Do we need an umbrella policy for each rental? That's our insurance agent. Do we need all these things? So we have these teams that we are subscribed to their service, and we can reach out to them. We have access. And y'all, the wisdom that Scott is pouring out right now is something I just wish I had when we first got started. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We all know how icebergs work. We see about 40 feet on top, but there's about 700 feet below. I would advocate for everyone that doesn't have a lawyer on their team to at least go to the Scott Reib on Instagram and just reach out to him and figure out, hey, what does it look like for me to have you on my team? Because we all need a team.
Yeah, and you need to, if you have a team, like you mentioned, the lawyer and the CPA, sometimes you're asking the question and you're not really sure, was this a tax question or is this a lawyer question?
Right.
Well, if you have a team set up and they know about each other, then they can figure that out for you. So you just send an email to both of them and they figure it out, and then they communicate back to you what your strategy needs to be and what your next steps are while you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and going out and finding more products.
Right. I think the biggest hurdle people face in not building a team is that they have a very shallow mindset. You know, their mindset is one of scarcity. So their mindset is based on scarcity. You know, they don't have a true business yet that's earning a lot of money. They don't have all of these sales. They don't have all these contracts. They don't have all these things. So why even have a team? But let me tell you, if you're focused on your venture and you're focused on success and you've charted and mapped and built a roadmap of success, you're going to experience that and you're going to need that team. Folks out there, we talked a lot in our earlier episodes about scarcity versus abundance, and having a team that's going to help you be successful, especially legally successful. A legal battle can end you and cripple you. So that's just one of the things you need to make sure you're like very focused on at the very early stages. Maybe you haven't even bought your first rental property yet, and you're like, well, how do I structure this? Well, go out there, find your deal, go figure all that out, and contact someone like Scott and say, you know, I don't really know what entity structure I should be doing. I don't really know, should I buy it in my name and then transfer it to a business name, or those questions, right? And whatever answer you're going to get from Scott is probably potentially going to save you tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars 10 years from now. And you're probably not thinking that far deep into it. But let me tell you, 5 years and 30 properties goes by real quick. And it will for you too, no matter what your business venture is. So you've got to shift out of the, I can't afford it. The thing is, you cannot not afford it. That's the real statement. You have to develop this abundance mentality of, I am successful. I am moving toward this vision of success, and I need this team. And that's something that took my wife and I a little bit of time to figure out. But, you know, looking back, if we had set up teams to begin with, we would have saved $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in rework. And that's been our biggest learning curve there.
Yeah, that's very true.
All right. So I know that you are a Zig Ziglar business lawyer. I love Zig Ziglar. One of his most quoted statements is, you know, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. A lot of people know that statement, and a lot of people believe that statement and maybe not, you know, embody that statement.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to know, like, what do you know about Zig that the rest of us may not know? I just kind of want to go a little off topic here, just talk a little bit about Zig Ziglar and his son that you work with. Can you tell us a little bit about the Ziglar family?
It's an amazing family, and it's been my pleasure since 2014 to be a part of that family. And it's been amazing. And what I can tell you about that family is they are exactly what they seem they are. And I met Tom in Houston at a small event that I was attending. I got to ride around in a car with him as he was driving me to the airport, actually. It was very surreal because I was hearing all the wisdom in Tom's voice, which is very different than his dad's. But it's all the things that his dad taught us all over decades. He actually learned. A lot of sons don't actually pick up what their dads are trying to teach. He did. And when Zig started to decline, they had some foresight into, hey, we've got to figure out how to carry this legacy forward. And so their dad's legacy was super important to them. And so they built out programs to continue and to create Ziglar legacy trainers to go out into the world and keep spreading that message. Because, you know, Zig said you can change who you are and where you are if you change what you put into your mind. And so they wanted to be able to send people out to give people that opportunity to make those changes. And that would be the biggest thing I would say is it seems too good to be true. If you go back and watch some videos of Zig and hear him talking and hear what he's saying, you would think, it's all a show. Well, it's not. He was as true and genuine as he could be. And his family is too. Now, that doesn't mean that they weren't human and don't have the same kind of problems that you and I have. but everything that they say, they believe, and they apply those things in their lives. And so when Zig is a huge goal setter, was huge to Zig. Man, Tom is all over that. It was a statement that you don't want to be a wandering generality, you want to be a meaningful specific. And so you have to have a target. And so if you're a business owner, you need to have goals. And a goal isn't something that you daydream about during lunchtime and then think that would be nice and go on. A goal is something that you've written down. It's measurable. It's got a specific achievement date. You've also considered what are the obstacles to that goal. You've written what you have the tools that would be necessary to achieve that goal. I mean, that's a goal. Otherwise, it's just a dream. And so they really live that stuff. And because of that, and have been flexible enough to change the way they do business, the methods of business to be more modern. Zig's company is still moving forward and is very successful and profitable. They weren't stuck in how Dad did it. How can we get Dad's message out and continue that legacy? And so they've been very flexible and just great clients too. When I do have suggestions, they actually follow them. And I've got a book coming out in November, and Tom actually wrote the forward for it for me, and I'm so excited.
That's great. Have you titled your book yet?
Yep. The book is titled The Shatterproof Entrepreneur, and it's going to be a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about today, but a lot more. But it's how to build that business that is shatterproof. There are kind of two, I see kind of two kind of business owners. There's the business owners that just keep banging their heads against the wall. They can't quite ever get where they want to go. That's frustrating in life. And then I would see these business owners that it seemed like everything they would do was successful, and they had free time freedom. They had money freedom. They always had a smile on their face. They could take off and do what they wanted to when they wanted to. And I call those people shatterproof business owners. And they've built the team that we've talked about. They've figured out their vision, their mission, their core values. They're communicating them to their team, both the team we've talked about and their actual employees and subcontractors. And they've set up systems for those businesses to run so that they aren't dependent on them, and they're not dependent on people or talent. They're dependent on the systems and processes. And when you do that, then you really end up having the life of a shatterproof entrepreneur, which is really what all of us are trying to get to. None of us wanted a job when we started our businesses. We wanted to be business owners, but most of us have ended up with maybe highly paid jobs, but they're jobs nonetheless. And so my hope is that with the book, I can kind of show people a path out of that and to become business owners and not just highly paid employees.
That is so true. And we have a lot of colleagues in the real estate space that they make enough money. They can sit back and eat from the tree that they planted years ago, but they're stuck in it. They're stuck in the grind of it, or some of them are just addicted to chasing the deal, which
sure.
And what we teach here at the On Purpose Investor, we have a book and we have a program where we coach people into building a roadmap that ensures that they are chasing the right dream, and that they are formulating their steps along the journey, and that when they get to that point, what are they doing at that point, instead of being stuck in what it took to get there. Because it's easy to be, well, this is how I've spent the last 5, 10, 15 years, so I have to just keep doing that, instead of being very intentional about your destination, saying, okay, when I do get to that destination, here's what I'm doing with my time. Here's what I'm doing with my wealth. Here's how I'm ensuring, generational impact. Here's how I'm ensuring that my kids can carry on the legacy. Here's how I can ensure that my community, my church, my family are benefiting in some way from this growth. I don't want to be the dad that amasses millions of dollars in real estate and hands it to mine and my wife's 2 sons, and they spend it, and then their children are left to rebuild. And I don't want that. We want to provide them with the education it took for my wife and I to get to where we are. And we want to give them the tools to be successful for themselves, and not just being those kids on TV we see that parents gave them money and now they're just blowing it and their kids are left with nothing. We want to have a Rockefeller impact. We don't want to have, a Ted Nugent impact. I don't know. I probably dropped the wrong name there, but but we want to have that Rockefeller impact.
I love it.
It starts, like you were saying, with what Zig said and the goals and the dreams. We do a lot of verbal negotiating, and
Sure.
a lot of people think they're making offers by just talking to somebody. Thing is, if it's all verbal, all you're doing is negotiating. Nothing is a contract until it's written and signed by both parties. It's not a contract.
In real estate, that is the truth.
So handshake deals are not deals. It is word of mouth, and they can be let go as soon as you said it. And same goes with your contract to your dream life. If it's just things you say, you're just negotiating with yourself what might be a good destination. And, those verbal contracts go away as soon as you can make them. Unless you put it on paper, you're not really committing and, binding to what you're chasing.
Love it.
Love what you said about Zig, and just in my mind, I'm thinking that is so true. Like real estate, we do a lot of verbal negotiations, but it's not a contract till it's written. And, same thing goes for your dream life. Same thing goes for where you want to be in 20 years or 10 years or 5 years, however long it takes you to get there.
If you just keep thinking about it, suddenly your 20 years are going to run up, and you're like,
That's
what
right.
do I do?
Yeah. I mean, my wife and I talk about, how the monotonous drives to work. A lot of people have the same path they drive to get to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do it over and over and over, most days you'll get in the car, go to work, and you'll get to work and be like, oh, what happened on the way to work? Like, I know someone honked at me, but I don't even know where it was or when it was. And you're daydreaming, and people will do that throughout their whole life, and you'll end up someplace you don't want to be. I want to know about the 8 questions to ask to eliminate signer's remorse. And I'm very interested in hearing your steps.
Man, you're asking for all the gold today. One of the biggest problems that we have just in life is that we sign contracts that we shouldn't have and that we're not happy with, right? That's the signer's remorse. And so there's some key questions that you can ask yourself. The first one, and this one kind of ties in kind of with what we're talking about, is you got to know what you want out of the contract. So when you're looking at a contract, and you need to have the contract if it's actually paper and a pad or something to write with, and write down the reason you want to do this deal. Why are we doing this contract? Right. So now we've got it written down. Does this contract achieve that? Now go through the contract best you can. Hey, best thing is always have a lawyer do it. But reading the contract, does this actually meet my goal? If it doesn't, walk away. This is a no. You don't do this deal. The second thing you want to do is take that thing and start looking for everywhere that it has dates. And we're going to highlight it. And I use a yellow highlighter for dates. Just to highlight all the dates. Okay. And now you look at it. Do all those dates work for me? Do they work with my schedule? Does that fit with my goal if we do those dates? Okay. If you say the dates are all good, great. The next thing is highlight the money. So every time there's a dollar sign or a dollar mentioned, highlight that in pink. Now we've gone through and you have all the dollar signs. Are the dollar signs right? Do they match up to the discussion you had before you got the written document? If all the dollars are right, then we can keep moving forward. And then the next thing you want to look at is what are my goals? What are my duties? What do I have to do in this contract? So now you're going to go through and highlight with a different color everything that I have to do. And then you have to ask yourself, can I do that? Do I want to do that? And if you can and want to, then we can move to the next step. What do they have to do? And sometimes it's just pay money, but sometimes there's other things they have to do. And so you highlight that, and then you look at that. And if that's what they have to do, am I okay with that? Does that get me to where I wanted to go at the top of my paper with my goal for this agreement? If it does, keep moving forward. The next thing you would want to ask is is there some way in this contract of resolving disputes? Every agreement I do has some sort of a alternate dispute resolution. The one that's built in is litigation, and courtrooms are only good for lawyers. I compare them to roach motels. It's like once you get in, you can't get out. And so stay away from that. Put in a mediation clause so you have a way to cool off and try to solve this problem before you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars paying lawyers. Try to work this thing out with a neutral third party. So have a mediation clause in there. You might choose to have an arbitration clause, but are those in there? If there's not one, ask to have one put in it, or don't do the deal because you're going to go straight to court. That's not a good way to do it. And then you want to look at what are the remedies, and the contract would be your next thing. If I do something wrong, what do they get? Because it can say in the contract what the remedies are. And then if they do something wrong, what do I get? And then the final question you would want to ask is, how is a breach or default defined in the contract? And if you're okay with those definitions, then you've got a green light on that contract, and you could sign it. You can turn those questions around and also use them to create a contract. And there's many more than 8 questions, but if you hit those 8 areas, then you're going to be very, very close to having a contract that I would prepare, and something that hasn't missed major points, that isn't vague and ambiguous, and it's enforceable. The main thing with contracts, and why I say you should always have written contracts, because oral contracts can be enforceable in certain circumstances, not in real estate ever. But if you have a written contract, then we have a way to go back and tag a base. So if you and I, Eric, had a contract with each other to do a joint venture on a property, and you were going to go find it, and my job was to rehab it, and I had to manage the contractors and all these things. If we didn't spell that out in a written agreement, and then we got confused down the road on whose job is it to make sure that the drywall guy's getting paid. Well, I thought it was your job. No, we go back to the written document, and we can see right there who was supposed to do it, because we've written out in detail what everyone's responsibilities were. And if you don't do that, you end up, someone ends up getting called the L word, a liar. And once you go there, the relationship's over.
Yeah. And
the relationship is everything. And so by having written agreements, you can preserve relationships. You can do business with friends. You can make friends with people you're doing business with, because they know they can trust you, because you're willing to put it in writing and sign it. And if it's in writing, you're going to do it. And so, one of our core values is that we mean what we say, we say what we do what we say. And if you don't, then you're going to be in breach of contract. And so if you make a contract, then you've got to honor it. So be careful about what you put in those deals, because you, as a person of integrity, you've got to do what it says in there, even if it's bad for you.
Right. It sounds like, approaching it with this 8 steps helps to prevent the common saying that there's only one ship that's guaranteed to sink, and that is a partnership. And if you can approach it with that mentality, you are making it shatterproof, unsinkable, because it's in writing.
That's great. I love talking about this stuff. But it's a great way for you to review those contracts yourself, or put together a draft agreement, and then take that to your lawyer and say, okay, here's the deal. Now you let them go through it with their perspective of experience and education, and then they can make it even better. But you saved yourself some time and money, because you've put together a really solid first draft of something that they can work from, or you've at least put some thought into it, so when they get it, they can already see if you've seen any problems in it, or they know that you've already said all the dates are good, all the dollars are good, it achieves my goal. Now you just make sure all the legal mumbo jumbo is right.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Scott, you have delivered so much gold today, and our listeners are absolutely in for a treat when they tune in to check out this episode. All of y'all listening out there, if you just have a simple question about Scott's program and what he does and what services he could provide to you, Scott, what's the best way they can reach out to you?
Yeah, one great way is at the Scott Reib on Instagram. The other great way is that we have a special show page for this episode that will be my website, reiblaw.com, reiblaw.com/on purpose. And if you will go there, we'll have a way for you to download my ebook for free. And you can book what I call a 20-minute laser legal coaching session, where you can tell me what's going on with your business, and I'll give you some strategies and advice that you can go apply. And we can also discuss, is it a good fit for you to be a part of our program?
Wow, Scott, you're offering some serious value. Ebook, a 20-minute coaching session. Wow, I've never had a guest, be able to provide that type of gold, as just coming to check out your page. Y'all, if I were you, I would turn this podcast off right now, and I would not walk but run to reiblaw.com/onpurpose and check out what he's got to offer. But if you're driving, don't do that. Wait till you get where you're going. Or else you'd be calling an attorney for other reasons.
Right.
All right, Scott, thank you so much for joining us today at the On Purpose Investor podcast. We are on a mission here at the On Purpose Investor to help people create a hyper-intentional life that gets you to where you want to be, and that, the ladder that you're climbing up to get on the top of the building of success, that you're happy where you are, you're proud of where you are and the people that surround you, and that you're up there safely and you're up there legally sound. All right, thank you so much, Scott, and we'll be catching up.
Oh, thanks, Eric. Yeah, it was great. Thanks, Eric.
We are immensely grateful for you joining us today. If you haven't already done so, we invite you to subscribe to our show. We understand that many of you tune in regularly, but perhaps haven't had the chance to hit that subscribe button yet. Don't worry, it's effortless. It takes about 3 seconds to follow or subscribe on your platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're enjoying the show. Your support is invaluable to us and has played a crucial role in the tremendous growth of our podcast. We sincerely appreciate your assistance in any way, shape, or form. Together, we can launch this podcast to even greater heights.